What are you kids doing here? This is no place for children. You. Give me one good reason why I shouldn't shoot you.
Well, you said how amazing you were, and why don't you tell us about your life?
Okay. It's a good thing I didn't shoot you. Well, little children, I guess I should start from the beginning. I'm Anne Bonney, the ferocious and bloodthirsty female pirate. I was born on March 8th, 1702 in County Cork, Ireland. My father is William Cormac, and my mother was Mary Brennan. At the time of my birth, my father was a lawyer, and my mother his poor, penniless housemaid. I was born out of wedlock. After my birth, my parents immigrated to Charleston, South Carolina, in an effort to escape the spite and anger of my father's legal life. In Charleston, my father became a plantation owner and officially married my mother. But soon after, my mother died of a deadly fever. As I grew up, my father taught me how to run his plantation, as well as how to take care of myself. But, in my opinion, I was a very unruly child. When I was 13 years old, I stabbed a servant girl in the stomach with a table knife in a fit of temper. You see, I have a very bad temper, and I was never taught to control it. Soon, I became bored with life on my father's irksome estate and desired adventure. At 16 years of age, I met James Bonney, a poor renegade sailor and part-time pirate. We fell in love and eloped against my father's wishes. James had hoped to inherit my father's grand estate, but my father, who was infuriated, disowned me. This, of course, made me extremely vexed. So, in an act of revenge, I set fire to my father's entire plantation. After that, James and I fled to Nassau on New Providence Island in the Bahamas. New Providence is like a pirate's paradise. It was delightful being newlyweds, and I grew to love James immensely. But James did something that caused him to lose my heart forever. James got a job as what I would call a tattletale for the governor, meaning that whenever we ran into any pirates, he would report them in return for a pardon of his own crimes or for money. I was absolutely disgusted by his spinelessness and greediness, and still am to this day. In my rage, I began to spend my time getting drunk at the bar, trying to forget my frustration. While I was there, I met a swaggering young pirate named Calico Jack Rackham, nicknamed for his bright striped pants. I became fond of his renowned success as a pirate and his cunning looks. Soon we grew to be attached and we tried to elope together and get a divorce from me, but James, my rightful and legal husband, discovered our plans and brought me before the governor with a felony of deserting him. Jack came to court and suggested that James put me up for auction and sell me to the highest bidder, because an adulterous wife is considered stolen property, which I think is ridiculous. I mean, an unfaithful husband isn't treated the same way. Anyways, James authorized a court order forbidding Jack and I from ever seeing each other. But despite James' efforts and Jack's seriously unromantic method of proposing, I ran away with Jack and his crew disguised as a man. It was so much fun. We went around pillaging and plundering together. While on an expedition, I became close friends with Jack's lieutenant. But guess what? Jack's lieutenant turned out to be a woman too. Jack's lieutenant was yet another inconspicuous female pirate named Mary Reed. Mary and I became great friends. I told Jack about her secret, and he was perfectly fine with it. We were an immensely successful little trio. Together, we stole a brand new ship called the Revenge, and we recruited an entirely brand new crew. Mary and I decided not to disguise ourselves as men like before, but still fought with the same determination. Well, let's see, I became pregnant, which honestly I was not too happy about. Jack sent me to live with some friends in Cuba, promising me I could rejoin him after the baby was born. But it was so boring waiting. After the baby was born, I left him with our friends in Cuba and rejoined Jack and Mary, who were just as happy to see me as I was to see them. We ran around pillaging, plundering, killing, and generally just being pirates for a while. Those good old times. Sadly, those good times didn't last too long. One night, in the year 1720, while aboard the Revenge, celebrating yet another successful raid, our ship was seized by the Bahamian governor's pirate hunters in the middle of the night. And since we'd all just been partying, many of the crew members were drunk. I mean, so drunk that they could barely stand up, and kept singing songs about random things like zebras and butterflies. But since they were all so drunk, they were completely different people and cowered below deck. They were such chickens. The only ones fighting were a young, not-so-drunk pirate, Mary, and me, just the three of us. Even Jack, our captain, and my husband cowered below deck. We fought all night long and couldn't hold out, especially since both Mary and I were pregnant. We finally surrendered the ship the next morning, but not before we had killed and wounded most of their men. They took us into custody, tried us in court, and sentenced us all to hang. Yeah, they stuck us in jail. And so, the night before Jack and the others went to the gallows. Oh wait, that's right, I forgot to tell you. Mary and I's sentences were suspended until after the babies were born. And so, the night right before Jack and the others went to the gallows, Mary and I were waiting in our cell when Jack came to visit. He was permitted to see me one last time. You'd expect me to speak kindly to him and console him, right? Nope. I was still too angry and annoyed at how cowardly he had been. My final words to him were, "I'm sorry to see you here, Jack, but you know as well as I that if you had fought like a man, you needn't hang like a dog." They were cruel words, yes, but true. If he hadn't been so cowardly, he might still be alive today. And so, Mary and I watched, with our pregnant bellies as big as full moons, when Jack, the father of Mary's baby, and the rest of the crew hung. I was quite depressed, especially after seeing the look on dear Jack's face before he died. I had and still did truly love him, but I did not, and still do not, to this day, regret those acid last words I spoke to him. Scarcely a week had passed when Mary caught the scarlet fever. I was moved to a different cell and worried constantly. 2 days later, the jailer came to tell me that Mary had died, taking her baby with her. I was shocked and deeply wounded. Mary had been such a great friend and companion to me these past few years. Finally, the time came for my own baby to be born, and I suffered a miscarriage, probably due to the harsh and unsanitary conditions in that wretched jail. And thanks to my father and his connections, I was granted pardon of my crimes, and my sentence was unauthorized. But you kids take my advice. Don't you ever become a pirate. Because it leads to wretchedness, and usually, for most, gruesome death. Shall we?